You're a demon, apparently. Chapter 3. Your life had become weird. At this point, you couldn't deny it was real. It had been too long for a dream or hallucination. There was still the chance that you were in some sort of coma, but it really didn't matter much at this point. It was hard to tell how long you've been in this other world. That was probably the best way to put it. There wasn't a clock down here, but you guessed it could have been at least a week since you'd been snatched across space and time. Maybe 2 weeks. You had definitely been fired, though. But the job sucked anyway. The cultists treated you like a king, but whether that was respect or fear, it was hard to tell. They brought you anything you asked for, including a luxurious gift, a stool. However, you either let Amber use it or sat on the floor with her in your lap for scritches. Still, it was nice of them. Speaking of Amber, she had been improving since your little speech. She had gained some weight, and sheen had appeared on her mane and coat. You couldn't see as many bones as before, which you guessed was a good thing. Again, not a vet. Overall, she seemed healthy, and her mood had improved a bit too, but, well, she was still a bit on the skittish side, and rarely used the authority you bestowed on her. She mostly stuck by your side, and only left to get food. Fruits and veggies, mostly, which made sense, given the horses. At least they had something they could eat, aside from hay and literal flowers. But God, you missed bacon. In the time you were alone together, you managed to get Amber to open up a bit about her world. Equestria, she called it. Apparently there were 3 main groups to the populace: unicorns, pegasi, and earth ponies. The princesses were called Celestia and Luna, and were alicorns with traits of all 3 groups. Amber also claimed that they were thousands of years old, and capable of moving the sun and moon. She mentioned another name, Cadence, but she ruled another country, so the cult didn't seem to mind her much. It all seemed a bit out there, but it seemed in line with everything else that you've dealt with so far. Near all-powerful beings in charge of Horsey Land? Why not? However, the prospect of facing them didn't fill you with joy. Not that you would have been the first. Apparently, someone had tried to take over every month or so in recent times. The list included, but was not limited to, a rock-obsessed unicorn, an anorexic shape-shifting bug thing, one of the princesses going through an emo phase, and a pumpkin that had resembled a frowny face. You, a baldish ape with anxiety, was at least not that out of the norm. You did have a chance to talk to a few members of the cult as well. It took a while for them to open up, but once they did, they wouldn't shut up. Especially the one that you called Anarchy. Because of the whole demon thing, they were skittish about using their real names, so you had to come up with nicknames for them. Anarchy got his from his favorite style of government, or lack thereof. He was nice enough, and you were making progress in talking him down from his namesake to something a bit less dramatic. You had also learned quite a bit about his herb garden. Apparently his basil was doing quite well. The cult was made of, well, morons. It felt mean to put it that way, but it was accurate. They would constantly ask you for favors or advice on the stupidest things. One of them had asked you with a straight face to open a pickle jar. Apparently they were fascinated by your hands. They also had no common sense and followed anyone or any pony that seemed to know what they were talking about. Which explains why they followed Father. He wasn't a total moron, but still acted smarter than he was. His grand plan was to summon a demon, and then let that demon come up with a plan to take down the princesses. Now, not only did he have no idea what a demon looked like, he honestly expected any demon summoned to play the game and not stab him in the back. Metaphorically or literally, you could think of at least 10 loopholes to help me destroy the princesses, and any demon worth the title could do worse with that kind of leeway. That said, he knew something was up. You'd been stalling for time, trying to think of ways to get home. Father was getting more and more impatient, and was hiding it less and less. You didn't know what he would do when they found out that you couldn't do jack shit to help him, but you didn't want to find out. If they were crazy enough to go up against what were essentially gods, and summon a demon to do so, what were they going to do to you for messing it up? Probably better to not risk it. Not that you could do much currently. You were spending the day the same way you had been since you got here, during something between fuck and all. The cultists only hung around for a few hours a day, usually when Father would get frustrated trying to get you to make a deal. Maybe they had day jobs or something. Amber was sleeping comfortably in your lap like a big cat, as had become usual. The urge to scratch her ears was strong, but you didn't want to risk waking her. Bored was the only option you could think of at the moment. Then, your attention was drawn to the circle on the floor. Father had warned against trying to cross it, but was a bit vague on what exactly would happen if you tried. It was doubtful that it would do anything permanent, but the thought was still unnerving. You carefully slid Amber's head off of your lap and moved closer, trying to decide whether or not to risk it. Well, it wasn't like you had anything else to do. After checking to make sure Amber was still asleep, you stood at the edge of your 2D prison. You take a deep breath, brace yourself for the worst, and stepped over the line. And nothing happened. You stepped back over the line, and still nothing. Hopping back and forth over the line, you feel nothing more than a slight tingle in your gut that felt similar to how you got here. Only without the whole falling into a cultist world domination plot thing. Satisfied that Father had thoroughly fucked up, you made a break for the door. About halfway through the room, though, you slowed to a stop as questions plagued your mind. Where would you go? Which way was home? Were you even in the same dimension as home? You didn't know the answer to any of those. Trotting back to Amber in the circle, you felt a bit downtrodden. It may not be an ideal situation, or even necessarily an ideal one, but it was the best that you had. Here, you got food and water on demand, and almost anything else that you could have asked for. How long that would last? Well, that was concerning, but it was something that you'd figure out when the time came. No sooner had you made it to the circle, you hear a deep thud close by. The room shook, startling Amber awake, and plumes of dust fell from the ceiling. After a moment, another thud. Then another. And another. To quote a famous Nerf herder, "I've got a bad feeling about this." The door flew open with a crash, and Father bolted into the room with a small group of followers close behind. They slammed the door behind them, and a flick of Father's horn caused it to glow light blue.
Wait, what's going on?
Amber stammered, a tremble running down her spine.
The elements have found us.
Father snapped back. The elements? You echoed, completely lost.
The elements of harmony! The new attack dogs of Celestia, led by thrice damn Twilight Sparkle!
Father replied, as he paced in front of you. He stopped and looked you dead in the eyes.
There is no more time! We must form our pact now!
Well, fuck. That is... You start before the door explodes into smoke and splinters. Ponies then came close to sailing across the room. With how effective Father's spell was, he may as well have tried to keep it closed by asking nicely. As the dust settled, 6 figures appeared. 2 unicorns, 2 pegasi, and 2 borings. One boring wore a Stetson and twirled a lasso, the other was pink and was constantly bouncing. Hovering in the back was a wispy-maned mare that looked like she was about to faint just being there, and the other Pegasus looked like she was just a pissed-off pride flag. One of the other unicorns reminded you of those overly dramatic prep girls from a really bad sitcom designed by out-of-touch executives. The other, the purple one leading the pack, wore a gold tiara while the others wore necklaces. You guessed that she was the one in charge. Then the room fell silent, save for your heart pounding in your ears. Everyone just stared at each other for what seemed like an eternity. Prissy was the first one to speak.
That's the demon? It's hideous.
Okay. Rude.
Is that it? Doesn't seem so tough.
Pride Pony boasted.
Betcha I can hog tie him.
Yeehaw remarked with a grin.
We should still be careful.
Wimpy whispered, barely audible.
Careful is for the weak!
Roared Bouncy, who had somehow produced a Viking helm and spear.
Keep it together, girls. We need to take care of this before that demon can do whatever it's planning.
Purple commanded as she glared directly at you, so intently that you'd felt like you'd burst into flames. Then they all cried out as they charged. What happened next could only be described as chaos, like something out of a cartoon. The air was filled with dust, and the sound of fighting was deafening. You'd catch a glimpse of one of the cult members or the elements, but you couldn't keep track of what was happening. Every so often, a bolt of magic or cultist would go flying past.
Master, what do we do?
Amber cried, tugging on your pant leg. You just stood there, weighing your options. As you saw it, you had 2 options. enjoy the brawl, and hope the winner didn't kill you, or make a break for what remains of the door and head into the unknown. Honestly, neither one was an attractive option.
Great one!
A voice called out, snapping you back to reality. It was Father crawling out of the fight. He was bruised and battered, as in, he was covered in cake mix. You decided not to question it.
Great one! Now is our chance! Grant me power, and whatever you wish shall be yours. Land, wealth, the souls of the citizens, even my own followers, whatever, price be damned!
He begged.
Not so fast,
Declared another voice. The dust cloud faded, revealing the elements standing triumphant. All the cultists scattered about, groaning. Father let out a shriek that made your ears ring.
Now that your followers are beaten, we'll banish your demon friend back to wherever it came from.
Purple proclaimed proudly. The 6 ponies' jewelry began to glow, and each one faded into the air, even the wingless ones. As they rose, Father swapped between begging you to do something and begging the elements to stop. Amber just looked at you, with a mournful expression. You didn't really know what to do. A feeling you were getting frustratingly familiar with. On the one hand, they were about to send you home. Purple had said as much. But on the other, they also thought that you were a demon. So would whatever they were going to do send you home, or to some godforsaken hellscape? Would it do nothing? For all you knew, it could just render you a red smear on the floor. Before you could decide on what to do, the elements erupted with a rainbow light, because of course they would, which arced into the air and down directly at you. Fuck it, you thought, and raised your arms to meet whatever fate decided. The torrent of color slammed into you, blinding your vision with color and light, as if it felt as though someone dumped a lake on your head. After a moment, the color faded, and you raised your head, and an awkward silence filled the air as you realized that not a goddamn thing had happened. Huh, was all I could say.
Wait, what the hey? Why didn't it work?
Pride Pony shrieked furiously.
I don't know. Celestia herself made that spell. It should have worked.
Purple stammered, looking significantly less smug than before. Wimpy looked like she was about to faint.
Cheater.
Bouncy's voice hissed in your ear.
What now?
Prissy whispered.
Should we try again?
Asked Yeehaw. The group did their magic rainbow floating routine again. Again, you were nearly flattened by the nauseating pastel colors. And again, you found yourself standing exactly where you were before. This repeated several times. If you were honest, you lost track about the 5th or 6th time. Whether that was the repetitiveness or the possible head trauma, that was debatable. Eventually, the Magic Girl wannabes got tired of slinging prisms at you and settled back on the floor panting. Apparently, whatever they were doing was wiping them out. Father, who had busied himself cowering under his cloak, noticed as well.
Ha! You've fallen for my clever ruse. I foresaw your predictable attack on us, so I inscribed anti-harmony runes into the summoning circle. The Great One is immune to your pathetic assaults, thanks to my brilliance.
He stammered, attempting to make himself sound as cocky as possible. He's totally bullshitting, you thought. What kind of idiot would fall for—
It doesn't matter what you do.
Proclaimed Purple.
With the power of friendship, we can overcome anything.
God damn it.
Fools!
Father roared.
This day belongs to me.
He reached into his cloak and produced a silvery ball about the size of an orange. A flash of his crimson magic flicked the ball towards the mare's hooves. Whereupon it shattered on the brick floor. A pinkish-purple smoke filled the air around them, causing Prissy to shriek in panic. The 6's eyes began to droop, and they began to sway. One by one, they fell to the floor, unconscious. Father blinked. He seemed legitimately surprised that had worked. Then he grinned his hideous grin.
Yes! Yes! Yes, I win!
He exclaimed with devilish glee and turned to you.
Here! A worthy sacrifice for your Great One. It is time for you to grant me the power I deserve. The souls of the elements of harmony are far greater than that pathetic
Father went down like a sack of bricks. Standing behind him was Amber, holding the remains of your stool in her magical grip. As you stand agape, Amber darted a hoof across your circle, breaking the pristine white line. The light from it faded away, the darkness spreading across the chamber. Then she stares at you, her eyes blazing with an intensity that you hadn't seen before.
You're free. What happens now?
She asked flatly. You didn't answer immediately. Everything happened so quickly that you really didn't have time to process it. Stepping out of the former circle, you paused a moment to think about it. Honestly, there was only one answer left. We run. Man, Amber smashing that stool on her dad? Play of the game. Now, let's get on to our honorable donators. Top donators, Dash of Evergreen, Peter Coulthard, J Tinman, and Darkside. Dospo, RuneScythe9852, CourierCruz CI, Delta Omega, Ryanny Dragonwolf, Secret Moon, Tallrascha, The Toilet Snake, Soul Dragon, Cerberus, Starlight Glimmer, Squiddy Boy, David E. Sanchez, Gaggy, Trey, Shadow Drake, Joe Piercy, Alex F., Rainbow Dash, TLK Anderson, TV Killer, and John Becker. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and live life to the fullest.